doing it for the first time, it's always good for them to know, why am I doing this step? But even if they don't, they at least can follow the process and do the step. The why might come later, right? And they could do the step and then they realize, because if they accidentally miss a step and it doesn't go the way it's supposed to go, it's like, oh, that's why that's supposed to be there. Welcome to the Nice Business Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Train, executive coach, leadership and culture consultant, and I'm joined by my good friend, Jim Bob Howard, veteran technical consultant. Together, we have more than 60 years combined of business and organizational experience. The purpose of this podcast is to have short but meaningful discussions about the people and culture side of business and how owners and executives can be both kind and successful. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Nice Business Podcast. I'm Richard Train with my co-host Jim Bob Howard, and today we are very lucky to be speaking with Liz Jenkins, owner of A Fresh Space. And really what we're here to talk about are the importance of processes and systems for so many in your orbit. It's not just for you and for your business, it's for your employees and so many others. Let's get into that. So before we go any farther, Liz, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your business and why we're talking about this.
Sure. So my company is called A Fresh Space. We do professional organizing, move concierge, unpacking. We help people declutter, get their houses and systems in order in their homes, sometimes in businesses. So just a wide range of places that we organize. People have stuff, and that stuff can clutter up their space and their brain. And when we come in and we can clear out that clutter for whatever that looks like to somebody, it could be the physical items, it could be the mental items. Once we get those cleared out, they can be a lot more productive in their home or their business or whatever they're doing. So we're here in the Nashville area, and we've been in business since 2005, and I have a team of about 30.
Welcome. And I think that's really important. I can tell you from my own personal experience, not just professionally, but personally, I can tell you that when I don't have a space that works for me, my mind is all over the place. And I do have ADHD. So I can tell you right now that when it comes to that, I need some sort of cleanliness in a way, or at least a flow to where I can understand.
Everything's different, especially with your ADHD.
Right.
There's some things that really go along with that, like out of sight, out of mind, object permanence, all the different ideas and where are those going to go. And then when you have too much stuff, it all just becomes white noise. And we see that a lot in families as well. So I have employees with ADHD, but the core of what we do is really focusing on creating the systems for people. And when you were talking about having systems and processes, the only way that you can really manage a team is if you have those in place in a way that really works for the team that you've got, not just for you.
Right.
And as you guys
Absolutely.
are talking about this, I'm thinking I definitely don't want to turn my camera and show you what my office looks like, because it would probably drive you crazy, Richard. I work in a little bit of chaos. And for me, I'm able to focus on the things that are right in front of me, but I also really suffer from that out of sight, out of mind. So I put things in places where, I'm going to see this again. But then I end up with a big pile of things that I'm going to see again, which means I don't see any of them again. And having a process for managing that, I think would really be helpful for me. But yeah, I can work in the mess, but I also realize that things get lost in the mess.
I will say that for a lot of people, and I don't want to genderize, but I think women a little bit more than men, that physical clutter causes mental clutter, which can cause anxiety and or depression or the feeling of never being caught up with things. And so everything that's out there is a task or something that has to get done. Yeah. And so it's this constant poking at you like, hey, do this. And it just becomes this big amorphous mess of things that have to get done. And that's why people get really, really frazzled in their homes and in their offices. I laugh because sometimes people think, oh, you're an organizer, everything must be immaculate. But I look at my desk and there's a coffee mug from this morning. My glasses are sitting here and I've got Christmas cards I haven't opened because I don't care about them as much as I do about getting my work done. And so there's things that are here, but everything has a flow and a system. And as long as you've got that, the surroundings that you have, there's no right or wrong in how that is for each individual person. But from a business standpoint, if you don't have a system in place to make sure things don't get lost or dropped, what happens as a business owner is that you end up taking the burden of making sure everything gets done, and you want to be able to empower your employees to be able to do that, or your team, or whatever that looks like. And the same thing is true in households. If nobody knows what's going on, then who knows who's supposed to be doing what? And so there's, it's an overlap. We don't do a lot of business organizing, but I manage my business and I consult other people in their businesses on how to run a business so that your business can run. That was kind of a convoluted sentence, but
no, it makes perfect sense. And I have to say, the audience of this podcast and who we are talking to are businesses, business owners, managers of all different levels, basically on how to operate well and operate with a people-focused viewpoint so you can be successful. And having those systems and processes, especially in times of clutter, whatever that word clutter means to you, whether it is mental clutter or physical clutter or whatever, you want to be able to make your workspace and your business work in a way that is conducive to your employees doing their best work.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that drew me to wanting to have this discussion with you when we had our preliminary conversation, which is, it's all about systems and processes, isn't it? And tell me a little bit more about how you have developed your processes for your business.
So when I started my business in 2005, it was just me. And I had no systems and I had no processes because it was just me. And then when I started growing the company and I had people that were coming on board, it was me and a few people. And we didn't have a ton of clients. We'd see one client, maybe a few days, and then another client, but it was always a very linear thing. And I could remember all of it. I was a lot younger and we had very, very few clients compared to what we have today. Like right now we have, like today, I think I had 4 jobs going on with a total of probably 12 to 15 different people involved in those or more in those projects. And I laugh, and I don't have any idea what's going on today. Like I know what's going on, but I don't have to pay attention to any of it because the systems are set up in a way that everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing. But it was a very painful process to get from no systems to very robust systems. And so to preface what I'm going to say about getting the systems developed, I really encourage people as you're starting to create those to not beat yourself up and not expect that they all have to be perfect. And they don't have to be every single thing. It doesn't have to be all the things all at once.
Right.
When we grew our systems and processes, it was a false start and then stepping back and then reviewing and then starting again and then finding a system that worked for how our company worked in a way that everybody could access what they needed to know and when. And so there's a couple of different things that we have going on. We've got our day-to-day. Here's what you're doing today. Here's all the to-dos and tasks that you need to get done. Here's the information that you need to do this project today. So that's one thing that we really needed. The other part that we really needed was what's going on in the background. What are the policies and the procedures and how to do all of the things? And where is that all going to live? And how are people going to be accountable to that? So we had to look for a system that would hold all that information and do the things. So we landed on using Basecamp, which is a project management app. And that has worked really well for us. It's not perfect, but it has the parts that we need. And so what I encourage people to do when you're thinking about creating your systems and processes is you really have to think about who's using it. Do you have users out in the field that are doing everything on their phone? Do you have people in an office that are sitting there in front of a huge computer, multiple monitors, and doing the things where they can access everything that's all really big and visible? How do your people think about their things? Do you have a lot of people that are very similar? So like a Kanban style where you have like the cards that are moving along, that can work really well. Like Trello or Asana, those can work really well for certain types of brains. I tend to have in my company a lot of very literal people who want to just see the information and they want a checklist and they know when they're supposed to get it done. And so for me, Basecamp, it has docs and files where you can put all of your stuff. You can do lots and lots of labeling and folders, and it's really clear. And then you can have tasks and you can have multiple lists and you can have sub lists and everything can be grouped. You can make templates so we're not recreating the wheel each time. You can have a schedule where you can see who's supposed to be on the job when. You can have messaging. You can have internal communication because I didn't want people texting each other outside and nobody can see what's going on. And so we wanted to make sure that everything was very visible to everyone in our team, that everything was actionable. We have very clear procedures. So when we talk about procedures, we have our system set up, but we train everyone on the procedure. So for example, we have an internal, it's called pings. It's like text messages, but the rule is you never put anything actionable in a ping. It always has to be a to-do that is assigned and dated, because if it goes in a ping, it's going to die.
True.
And so we have very clear guidelines about how we use our systems. And when you were talking earlier about the people, and it has to be very collaborative when you're developing.
Right.
Because every new procedure that we create, the people that it applies to have to sign off on it. Like I might create a procedure with my admin team, but then I give it to the team or I ask them to do it from start to finish. What's the procedure? What's the policy that needs to be around what we're doing so that it is accurate, it's useful, and it will actually work for that and support it?
So your team has the ability to create their own processes.
Yes, and they're expected to. If a new procedure comes into play, if something new happens, that's their job. They may not have the time or they actually know how to do it, but they have to give us the input. And then someone from the admin team might go in and like create the format. And then they have to go back in and say, is this accurate? Does it work? And then we have a yearly procedural review that one of my assistants does, where she has a yearly recurring task to go through all of the procedures, tag the people that it applies to. The review process is just as important as the creation, right? Because you can't set them and then pretend they're going to be the same forever. So the flow of the creating the processes and the procedures is you identify something that's happening in your business. So an example might be, we do a lot of donations in our company. So people are editing their home. We have a lot of donations. So what is the process that has to go around that? And I can't have it be, oh, this person's going to do it that way and this person's going to do it that way. So in the template in our client projects, there is a document. There's a folder and then internal documents for all the donations. We have a note if the client wants a donation receipt or not. And then for each day that they are editing, all of the donations get photographed. They get uploaded into the document. Whoever takes them, the procedure is they note where it went, what the date was, and who took it. And then there's a to-do that gets checked off associated with it. And then we created a procedure around that. Step 1, step 2, and who's responsible. And so it might seem a little bit overkill, but when we have a new person come in, they read the procedure, somebody asks if they have any questions on it. That's one of their first tasks, because nobody wants to do that task because it's not fun. But you have to lay out all the stuff, photograph it, upload it. And it's great for them because they learn how to upload the photos and they do it accurately and but they have a procedure to follow. It gets done the same way every time. And if, Richard, I'm at your house and you call me and we organized your pantry and you text me and you're like, hey, I can't find my oregano. Do you know where it is? And I can go look at your donation photos and say, you know what? Oh, the oregano is not really a good option because that would. Okay. Let's say you can't find your some decorative vase that you had in the pantry, and you're like, oh, my wife was looking for that decorative vase, and I can go look at the donation photos and say, oh, it looks like here you donated it. It went to Goodwill on the 14th, and you'd be like, oh, that's right, I remember that. But thinking about the oregano, every single thing gets photographed after. That's another procedure. After we do an organizing project, one of the team is responsible, and it doesn't matter who does it, but the lead is responsible to make sure somebody does it. And they say, hey, Bella, can you go take photos of the kitchen? So we know that the procedure is you take a photo of every single drawer. You open the drawer, you photograph the drawer. You take a photo of every wall of the pantry. You do close-ups of every cabinet. And then you do full photos of the end result. And if you're feeling sassy, you can do a video of the whole thing, which would be amazing for social media. So when I go back and you say, where's my oregano? I can go in and look at the photos and say, oh, you know what, Richard, it looks like it's in the cabinet to the right of the range. If you look up on the second shelf on the riser, I can see they're all in alphabetical order. And you'll be like, oh yeah, it's right here. Or there might be a note that says, Richard's out of oregano. He needs to buy some more. So there's the procedures that we have are in place so that nobody has to ask me a question on how to do anything.
Right.
every single thing that's in the system is designed to support the people that are actually doing the work. And then it's the same thing for the admin stuff. Like I have to do sales tax every month. I don't know about you, but I cannot remember what exactly I'm supposed to do every month. Like I know I'm supposed to do it because I have a recurring to do it, but I can't remember. I'm like, is it the workforce or is it the tn.gov? Like which, but I have a procedure. And the to-do is a link to that procedure. And I click the link and it takes me to the thing and it'll auto-populate. And then it's like exactly how to do it. I'm like, oh yeah, I go over to QuickBooks and I run this report and I put this in, but it's very, very detailed. Anybody in my company could do this if they needed to. So we operate on a hit by the bus kind of thing. If something happens to me, every single thing in my company can happen. It'll happen on time and somebody will be able to do it because we have all of the procedures in play.
They know where to go to get it.
At the beginning of what I was saying, if you're starting out new or you don't have any procedures, just take a look at what you're doing. And if anybody asks you a question, you probably need a procedure for it. So if you have to file sales tax, you can use an app like Scribe, you can use Loom, you can use any kind of AI technology that'll follow along with what you're doing, do the actual procedure, get a written thing, do a video or whatever it is that works for you. And then you've got sales tax procedure, revise 2026, make a to-do to review that in 2027. And now you've got one. And now you've got the start of your procedures for your company. And you've got a start for your systems. That was a very long answer to kind of a short question.
No, it was a great, thorough answer. And I really appreciate it. A couple of things came to mind is that one is that your institutional knowledge is captured in your procedures, right? Yes. Every time you do something, it doesn't, because we get into this mindset of I know exactly how to do that. And I work through multiple steps just like that because I've done it so many times that it's hard for me to explain to somebody. Or I may think, oh, well, here's what I do. When I try to slow down and try to describe it because I don't have it written down someplace and I'm not doing it at the moment, I'll leave out some steps because I'm like, oh yeah, well, there's that sort of thing. But this way, you have everyone who comes in, new people, somebody who only does it once a year, someone who is filling in because somebody, is on vacation or whatever. All of those things it's just there. It's available for them to do without having to try to remember it or like, what about this step and how do we negotiate this? And really kind of back to the point of our podcast is what a nice thing for your employees to be able to know exactly where they need to step in and do things, exactly where the next step is. And did I leave anything out? I don't have the stress of that because I'm going through the checklist. I know exactly what needs to be there. And if I do find something that needs to be addressed, I have a question, right? Or a question comes up. Well, then you also have a process for improving that process. I really appreciated your answer.
I will say that it's kind of like a recipe. Like I make my own barbecue sauce, for example. I try not to eat a lot of processed foods and I love making barbecue sauce, or I make like a Korean wing sauce or something. And so I don't even know how I make it. One of these days I should write it down. But if you asked me how I made it, I'd be like, well, there's some orange juice and there's some brown sugar, and there's some ketchup. And sometimes I throw some oyster sauce in there. Like it's so random because I don't make it the same way every time. But it's not critical for a barbecue sauce.
Right.
But if it's writing that all down, and I will say I mentioned Scribe before. It's an app that you can do where it'll transcribe everything that you're doing as you walk through it. Loom is a great way to get the video process done. You can do step by step for everything that you're doing. But when you think about those processes, one of the things that I know that was the holdup for me when I was first starting about getting the processes and procedures put together was that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to make this pretty book and it has to be all of the same. It is not. It's literally a folder in Basecamp that says procedures. And then we have folders, and one says QuickBooks and one says Workforce and one says Consults, and inside and we just drop them in there. We just make a document. It has the procedures. It is not fancy. It's not even glamorous. It's not even that pretty, but it works.
It occurs to me, and this kind of going off of what Jim I was talking about, what a gift it is to your people. But more importantly than that, they can go in there and do something. And if they're doing it for the first time, it's always good for them to know, why am I doing this step? Mm-hmm. But even if they don't, they at least can follow the process and do the step. The why might come later, right? They could do the step and then they realize, because if they accidentally miss a step and it doesn't go the way it's supposed to go, it's like, oh, that's why that's supposed to be there. So they'll understand the why. Or they do it a couple times and they realize when they get the end result that they wanted, that's why those particular steps were in that particular order. And another side of that coin is, what if they went through the process, they did the steps, it came out the way it was supposed to, but they had an epiphany of another thing that they can do to maybe improve it a little bit more. So it gives your people the ability to get their feet wet and do the work, follow the process, and maybe even help you improve it.
Oh, 100%. That is one of the reasons that we do those reviews every year. And
Right.
everybody in the company knows, if you've got a better idea on how to do this, let me know. We're
Mhm.
all about efficiency. I want things to go more smoothly, but we do have to talk sometimes ad nauseum about why we're going to do it. Is it going to really make it better? But I'm not a carved in stone person. Everything is very fluid. And I really want my people to have input because they have buy-in. Like all of our on-site procedures and all the work that we do, like my people don't tend to leave. People really, I have been told, and they stay, like working for the company. And I believe that it's because we have a great working environment. My team is absolutely fantastic because we hire a lot for, I don't want to say personality because everybody has different personalities, but you have to have a certain vibe and a certain desire to do this work and love the clients that we work with and how we interact with each other. My team actually has final say on who we hire because of that, because I want to make sure that everybody works well together.
Right.
But they know that they always have input on how we do it, what we do. For example, we started a part of the company that was doing personal assisting because it seemed to go really, really well. Like we were like, oh, this would be great. We would love to do this. It's part of what we do anyway. Yeah, we all hated it. And my team, they gave it their best shot. They tried and nobody liked it. It's one of those things where we tried it. The team was like, we don't love this. We'll do it if you really want us to, but we're not enjoying this. It's not really working for us. And we got rid of it. And I was okay with it because we tried it. I'm a big fan of let's try it. And if it doesn't work, it's fine. There's definitely going to be some costs involved in that. And that's one of the other things you really have to think about is it takes time. Either you're doing it yourself and your time is valuable, or you're paying somebody else to do it. Like I pay Kim, who's the admin that manages all the updates. I pay Kim every year. It probably costs me, dollar-wise, it's probably going to be at least 5 to 10 hours of her time, maybe a little bit more, to go through. But it's worth it to me to know that our systems and processes are updated. And,
Right.
and that's really what I was just talking about, is mostly about our procedures and our policies. And when we talk about our systems, it's related to that. But the systems to me are more about what are the apps and what's the flow of everything that's happening. And when we talk about Basecamp, because I do a lot of training on it, you know, other apps that we use to support the team, obviously we use QuickBooks and Workforce. We use an inventory app called Sortly, which manages all of our supplies and materials and products. So that's
Right.
another app that we use. But it took a while to figure it out. There's always going to be things that work, things that don't. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, we're always like, I want the best thing. I want the thing that's going to be perfect. And there is no perfect app. I'm just telling you. We've gone through
Well,
so
there's always
many.
something new too.
There is. And we've been using Basecamp since 2016. And so many bright and shiny things have come around. Well, the biggest challenge that we've had is CRMs. I've never liked them. I've always really struggled with them. And I have somebody who got promoted in my company in March who was ready to spearhead it. And that's the other thing that I have found is that as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, when we start, we do all the things.
Yeah.
Right.
But as you grow and there's so many things to do, that it's really easy to get caught in the weeds. And what you see happening is that, all right, I'm going to dive in. I'm going to learn the CRM. I'm going to do this. But you know what I'm not doing? Client outreach and booking more jobs. Or I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to a conference. And then what I'm not doing is getting more jobs on the calendar. And so every time when you get like caught up in this other thing, something else will suffer.
Right.
And so I've learned that if I need a big new project that we're going to implement, like our inventory, if I don't have somebody to manage it, but one of my team that manages our shopping and returns and all of that, and one of my organizers who has inventory management background, they really wanted to do it. And I said, I will support you. Here's your budget. Let's talk. We'll do a couple of meetings, but I cannot run this and I cannot be involved in this.
Right.
They have taken it and they have run with it and they've done an incredible job. So when my admin, Ashley, came on board, in this new role, she's like, I will take on the CRM. I will manage it. I will learn it. I will do it. I'm like, okay, great. It's going great because she was ready to spearhead it.
Yeah.
So the thing that I try to tell entrepreneurs is that you need to be able to let go of some of these things and not micromanage your people and let them create the system, let them run it, stay on top of it and stay in the loop, but they have to create the procedures. So we have very thorough procedures around Sortly, the inventory app, because they created them. I reviewed them. I test ran them to make sure that I could understand them. And a perfect example of this is one of my friends in a mastermind group was starting to use Sortly. And she emailed a question to our mastermind group. And she's like, hey, for those of you that are using Sortly, I'm having this one issue and I'm not quite sure how to make these two things talk to each other. And how do you do this, make this work? And I went into our system and oh, there was a procedure. And I gave her a link and I sent it to her. And she's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I'm like, yes, it is, because I have an amazing team who created a procedure for it. But that's why the systems work, because that's my number one thing. If we're going to do it, there has to be a procedure associated with it, because that's the only way that our systems are going to work. And sometimes we don't even look at them after we create them, and that's okay. But as long as it's there and it's available for somebody to use if it's needed, then it was worth making. So for the CRM that we're now using, we had tried 6 different ones prior to finding one that felt like a really good fit for us with the interface and how it flowed. And we actually have a meeting after this to talk about fine tuning and doing some stuff with one of the support people there. But it's one of those things that finding the right system to use to run the businesses, it can be trial and error, but sometimes you just have to be like, this is what we're going to use.
Yeah.
The upswell to try something brand new is absolutely, it takes so much time, so much mental energy. And you really, as a business owner, have to be very mindful about your bandwidth. You know, like I want to have time to read a book. I want to have time to go get my nails done. I want to have time to go to yoga. And I do not want to be working 16 hours a day.
Right.
And the only way I've been able to manage my schedule at this point in my career, 20 years in, with this many people, is finding people that love that aspect of the work. Because you don't want to put somebody in a job just because they can and they say they will.
Yeah.
But you want somebody who really enjoys it and has that, like, CRMs are not how my brain works.
Right.
I'm like, if it's me, everybody's on my phone and I just remember everybody just by thinking about them. I'm like, oh yeah, I should probably email that person. Yeah, that doesn't work when you get to a point where we're at.
No. And that really comes back down to like helping everyone within your organization to operate in their zone of genius, right? And like you said, as an entrepreneur, you got to wear all the hats to some extent, right? Because you're just getting things going. But at some point, you do need someone to come in and do things, and you need to take that hat off and you need to give it to somebody else. And it's like, I'm not going to continue on that because it's yours.
It's scary.
But really what you want to focus on is what I'm hearing is that you want to do the things that only you can do, and then you want to delegate everything else or automate it, right? One of the two or both, is that everything else needs to have a procedure. It needs to have a champion for it, because like you said, a CRM, getting it set up and knowing how you're going to organize all of that stuff is a big undertaking. But once it's set up, people know what their interface is. Like, when is it going to tell me that I need to reach out to this specific client? When do I need to turn this lead into an account or turn it into an opportunity? All of those things, once it's set, it's easy for folks to do, but getting it set up and what is our process going to be? You need somebody who's got that mindset going on it, that is going to focus on how are we going to actually manage the relationships with our clients, which is what CRM stands for. And that's what we want, is the relationship with them to work. And so being able to have processes in place and then also turn some of that stuff over. Like you said at the beginning, like you've got all these different projects going on and you don't know the inner details of any of them off the top of your head. You don't need to. You have systems where you say, I need to know where this is. I can see where it is. I can see what's going on with it. And I know that somebody is handling the details, right?
Yeah, I always go and I check those project updates, and my team will always alert me if there's very rarely any issues, but every once in a while the client might have a question or maybe something didn't go as well as we thought. And they'll always give me an update, but I can read everything in the overview and I can look at the after photos and I can see that everything's been checked off. And I very rarely have to comment. And then I check with the client afterwards. Hey, how's everything going? And it's it's a really nice feeling to feel that people can take that responsibility to manage it. But when you think about the systems and the procedures and the processes, it's really about setting your team up for success.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to want to hold everything like, oh, I know all the things. But I don't want to know all the things at this point.
Mm-mm.
But it's really hard to let that go and trust the people to do the work. My team laughs because when I first stopped going on the jobs, like on the physical jobs, and I was trying to manage outside, it was at the very beginning. And I swear they're like, I'm like at the windows, like, are you guys okay in there? It's just, it was really hard because I was stepping back and letting them manage the client experience. And I'm doing this stuff in the background. And that was a very, very difficult shift for me. And now I realize I love running my business more than I actually ever loved organizing. And I really loved organizing.
Yeah. Jim Bob and I interviewed a guy where he was talking about the difference between going from owner operator to owner manager to owner investor. And it's a mindset shift without question. And it's sometimes hard for business owners to do that. Yeah. What a gift for your people.
I know. I want to come work for you, honestly. I'm not into organizing things, but just hearing all of the processes that you have, I'm like, but I could follow processes. Ooh, I could improve processes. Ooh, I could, and I'm like excited. And I'm like, wait, I'm organizing people's house. No, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
But the processes make it
for whatever you do. You know what I mean? It's like we have a service-based industry, a service-based business. But I think it's true in any business that you have. The hard part, I think, is when it's just you, or maybe you just have you and a very small team. It's really easy to think, oh, I don't need those. But, for me, I'm 60. I've had this business for 20 years. So in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm probably going to be thinking about doing something transition-wise. Maybe I'll step out more. Maybe I'll bring in a partner. Maybe I'll sell. I don't really know yet what's going to look like. But I started 3 to 4 years ago. I started really looking at what that's going to look like when that happens. And we've always had really good systems and processes in place. But what I'm looking at is when or if I do sell at any point, I need to make sure that, obviously my books are in really good shape, but I also need to make sure that somebody else can step in. It's partly why, even though it's been costly, I have brought people in to take on these roles. Yeah. But what's interesting is even though I move people into these roles in my admin team, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be really expensive. It's going to be hard because I'm going to have, I only have so many jobs and I've got more people that I have to support in the admin end of things. But what was interesting is that as I brought more people in to take more things off my plate, our business just kept growing. And I had to hire more organizers. Yeah. And then that now supporting the admin team effectively, it was like, if you build it, they will come. And that's what happened is I built it. And I was worried because I was like, oh, we're not going to have enough clients to support it. But that just kept growing because I had more attention to spend on the building of the clients. And then also when I think about what that's going to look like from selling or stepping out, somebody else can now, I've got people in all of the roles. And I think about what I'm doing and I'm basically working myself out of a job.
Right. Which is what
I'm still very actively involved. I do all the client consults. I answer the phone, but at some point, maybe I won't do that. But I'm slowly shaving off all the stuff that I don't like, receipt entry into QuickBooks and bookkeeping. And I don't do any of that anymore, thank God. And then the CRM stuff, I don't do any of the move management stuff. I have a full move concierge team now, and I don't do any of that. And I used to manage all of it, and it was so much time. And now I have 3 people that do this job. And that department is growing and growing because I have people fully dedicated on it that isn't me.
Right.
You already said that you hire for character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what you do is you hire for character.
Yeah.
Skills like what you're talking about can be taught.
Yeah. Yes.
If you're hiring intelligent, caring people who are of the sort of character that you want to be doing this kind of work, which you clearly are, then the skills to do what you do, what right now only you can do, can be taught to somebody who is really capable of that. So that's fantastic. So that's got to give you some measure of comfort. What I'm curious about, though, Liz, is from your customer perspective. You talked about you call and you talk to your customers after all the jobs and everything. What do you think is the effect of having all of these systems in place as it relates to your customers? Do they see this?
They do. And in fact, the number one response I get from the huge bulk of our clients is usually amazing, all caps and 3 exclamation points. I'm not kidding. Like
Right.
every single person says amazing, except for the very few people that sometimes you just have people that you're just never going to please. But the 95%, 98%, that's what I get back. And the feedback that I get back is that every detail was handled, nothing was forgotten. So an example of that is we had a client that we have handymen in the company that help out and they do a lot of the work. And we had a client that we do a lot of holiday decorating and takedown. It's not really organizing, but we're organizing the stuff when it comes down and we organize it when it comes out. And it just became a little bit of a holiday side hustle that we do in the company. But anyway, when my team was doing holiday decorating at a client's house that we've done for 5, 6, 7 years now, I can't remember. And they have a very, very tall tree and then these big, huge double windows. One of my team noticed, and the client, they had a conversation that some weather stripping was missing and it was way up high and they needed a tall ladder. So my team, they didn't have the capacity to do it at that time, but they made a to-do in our system so that when we went back for the holiday takedown, there was a to-do for one of the handymen that was on the job to look at it and fix it when they were there. And the client was so impressed because they're like, I can't believe you remembered about this weather stripping. But my organizer noted it, put it in the to-do, assigned it to the person who was going to be there on that day, and put a picture of where it was and what the client said. And it was all in there. So when the team went back, they knew to take the ladder over by the window, fix the thing. Their house manager was like beyond impressed. She's like, I can't believe that you guys were able to get this done for us. And it was just something that had been not done. And so it's one of those things where when it feels like we're miracle workers and we're magic, but we're not. We just have trained everybody to follow the systems. And I'm always like, even if you did it, make a to-do, put the notes in, assign it, date it, and check it off. Just do it. Because that way we know it's been done. And if somebody calls me and asks me a question or somebody texts or there's ever a question about anything, it's documented in some form or fashion in the client projects. And that's what we train everybody to do because our systems are really, really solid. And if ever something goes wrong, we literally sit down and go backtrack. What went wrong here? Where did something happened? Okay. Did this not get documented? Did somebody forget something? And then, okay, how are we going to make that not happen next time? I'm not throwing people under the bus. There's never any blame. It's just more about, all right, here's what happened. Let's fix it. Okay, what are we going to do differently next time? And so people aren't afraid to make a mistake. They don't want to. But if they do, they know they're not going to get reamed about it. It's just, okay, this happened. And everybody tries their best to not have something happen.
I'm just thinking that any of our listeners, like if you're listening to this and you're hearing Liz talk about this from a perspective of organizing somebody's house and even just a project that you're working on where you've got all of these data points that need to be captured, that need to be checked off, that need to be done on a regular basis, it's really easy to see that for this type of business, gosh, you couldn't do it without these. But how are you managing your business without this type of stuff? I don't care if you're running an accounting firm or a manufacturing company or healthcare or tech, it doesn't matter. Every time you're working with a project, every time you're working with a client, you've got procedures, you've got expertise that you're bringing to that. And if you get to a point where you want to try to do a postmortem after something and say, hey, did we do all the things we said we were going to do? Is the client satisfied? What went wrong? Those types of things. And I can't imagine that any team would really do this really well. And you remember every specific thing that you did or didn't do. Like, you don't have the data points. If you're going through a postmortem and you don't have a checklist of things that you said you were going to do and that you didn't do or you did in the wrong way, you don't have any data points to go with. All you're doing is saying, well, how does it feel like we did? And that's really hard to fix the next time. I want to feel better about it. I'm sorry. I can't quantify that. Right.
Improvement doesn't happen then.
No, not at all.
Well, and to your point about did you do all the things you said you were going to do? So when we do a client project, we do an intake. And I know most people do. If you have a new client, you're going to do an intake of some form or fashion. It could be a form. It could be an in-person visit, whatever. You're collecting the information to do the project. Mm-hmm. So ours looks like I or one of my team goes to the house and we measure things. We take photos. We ask lots of questions. And so an example, going back to the kitchen pantry that we were talking about earlier about your pantry,
right.
As I'm standing in the pantry, I'm asking you questions about how you're using your thing. Do you want your baking items decanted into matching canisters?
Mm-hmm.
We can have a conversation about that, pros and cons. How do you feel? Which style do you want? So I take that information. If you're like, oh my gosh, Liz, I would love to have my baking decanted into OXO pop canisters with pretty labels.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, amazing. We would love to do that for you. And so I put on the shopping list, OXO pop canisters, labels. We have labels we can have pre-printed or made, just side note. And then in the project overview, Richard was so excited to get his baking decanted. And then there's an associated to do, decant baking into OXO pop canisters. So now we've captured it in the intake. There's a specific to do for the team. Now, if the team gets there and you have decided, you know what, I really don't think I want to have anything decanted. I thought about it. I don't really want it. And the team's going to say, no problem. But you know what they're going to do? They're going to make a note, client decided against it, and then check it off. Because if they just check it off, then I think it's done. And then I go look at the photos and I'm like, I thought we said that we were going to decant the stuff into things. But then I go and I look at the to-do, and it'll also be in the project overview. Mm-hmm. It would be that, we were talking about the pantry and the client decided he didn't want have everything decanted. Right. So I've got two places now where it's noted in the to-do and it's also noted in the overview, most likely. As long as it's in the to-do, it doesn't actually need to be in the overview. But most people will put it in there. So again, it goes back to, did we do what we say we're going to do? And so if I'm looking at it from the outside, why aren't those in the canisters? And I don't see any notification about that. I'll be like, oh, did they forget to do it? But it's checked off. So that's part of our procedure is if it didn't happen, you need to check off why it didn't happen.
Right.
So this could be true, I think, in any industry. It might seem overkill, but I am telling you, the only way, in my personal opinion and professional opinion, I think the only way that you can grow and set your team up for success is to set them up with this scaffolding so that they know what they're supposed to be doing and when, but you're also giving them the freedom to do what they do best. So an example is in your pantry. I'm not going to say edit the pantry. They know to edit the pantry. I'm not going to say check expiration dates. They know to do that. The only things I'm going to put in there are going to be the very specific things that you said. So Richard, if you're like, you know what, I really need to get to my supplements every day and I really want them eye level where I can access them. And then we'll talk about how you might want them sorted. And it might be that I've got joint supplements and I've got skin supplements and I've got this kind of, and I want them all separated so I can find the ones, or I really want my dailies together, but then here's ones that I only take every once in a while. And so I'm going to put in those notes in the to-dos, create separate zones for these specific categories. The rest can go over here. He only uses these sometimes. So that way, when they come in, they know what they're doing. But the rest of the pantry, they know how to organize a pantry, and they're going to have those conversations with you. But I'm capturing that information up front so they can have the products that they need, that they're ready to go when they get there. And then the rest will evolve, and then it could be that as you guys are talking, they might be like, you know what? How would you feel if we put all of your supplements in this drawer where you could just see them all? And you might be like, oh my God, that's genius. And they end up in a drawer, but they'll note, we decided to put them in a drawer. And client was thrilled with that decision or something.
Right.
Sometimes they put little snarky comments for me. But it's really about giving them the information that they need up to the point that they need it so that they can take it from there. But we've done the ground. You're laying the groundwork. You're laying the foundation. So if you have somebody who has a graphic design company, they're going to capture all the information that they need up front, but then it's going to evolve from there. But you have to have that base, because if you're going to hand it off to a new designer, an example is, my Move Concierge team. I took a call today from a prospective client whose mom is moving. She doesn't live here. So I went into our CRM. I was very proud of myself. And I put in the consult information, but I captured all the information. Where does she live? What's the timeline? I put all that information in there. Then I handed it over to my Move Concierge. And she has now sent an email with all of our prospective information. But when I said, if you have any questions, she had no questions because I captured the information that was needed. And then she can take it from there. I don't need to micromanage her job. She knows what to do. So I look at the systems and processes, the reason that you have them, it's not like you have to have it in a certain way or it has to be a certain thing. But what you're doing is you're setting your company up in a way that everyone in your company knows what they're supposed to be doing, how they're supposed to be doing it, and when they're supposed to be doing it. And then if you decide to step out at any point from any part of the company, everything is there in a way that somebody else can take that on successfully.
Yeah.
And you're not gatekeeping any of the stuff that needs to be done. And I have talked to several entrepreneurs when I've done consulting with them, and they're like, oh, well, I don't want to give away all my secrets. And I'm like, there are no secrets. If you have somebody in your company that you trust to touch your stuff, you need to be able to do the thing.
Yeah.
And you can't do the thing
Right.
if it's not out there for them to do the thing. So
no, what you're doing in effect is you're helping to train the next level of leaders.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even down to the beginning, the very first introductory jobs, is you're training them to be leaders in their own position so that eventually they can take ownership of it.
Yeah.
So listen, Liz, we could talk about this forever. This has been fantastic. I think that there are a lot of really great pearls of wisdom that you've been able to share. And I thank you for being on. How can somebody reach out to you if they have any questions about anything that you've talked about?
They can send me an email, liz@afreshspace.com. Follow us on Instagram @afreshspace if you want a lot of lovely photos of organized spaces and tips and tricks and products. And yeah, that would be great. We'd love for people to follow us, and we have an email newsletter that we send out regularly. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. So fun.
Thanks, Liz.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Nice Business Podcast. We hope you got some valuable information and inspiration. We're always looking for great stories that will help your business be more kind and successful. And if you know of one we should hear or someone that would be a great interview, please let us know. To contact me, click the link here to go to my website or use this QR code. I wish you a nice business.